Hey students, we are ready to take the skills that you built in drawing your value studies. We're ready to take these and we're ready to apply these to an actual project. So this is where you can take an actual thing that you do and make it really look pretty three-dimensional. So what I've done here is I've gotten some candy and I have opened up one of those candies. Crumple up the the wrapper, laid it down on here, and now I've created this little mini still life. If you want to use candy, that's fine. If you would rather draw something else, a still life is an image, or it's an artwork made out of items that don't move. So a landscape is constantly changing. A portrait can constantly change. However, a still life stays still. So these are objects that don't move. So my suggestion for you, because I thought that would be fun, would be to take some of your Halloween candy, munch on some of it, leave the wrappers ready to go, and create yourself a little still life. So that's what I've done here. I used my cell phone and I took a picture of it. And once I have the picture taken, well, try to set this so that you can kind of see what's going on. I can go in and I can change it. So on here, what I did is I can enhance the picture, and maybe I like it. That whited everything out way too much for me. And I liked the design. I picked these candies just because I really kind of like the value design where it says Lifesavers around it. So I'm not going to edit it that way. I'm going to go back. So take that off. I can crop it, so I can decide to get in tighter on it. I had a gentleman earlier who he took a picture and he was from really far away to the point that you couldn't even see the candy. I want you to get in as close and tight as you can. And after you get in close and tight, you know, take a picture this way, take a picture this way. So try different angles to see if there's anything that comes out better. So I doctored it up, figured out what I wanted to do, if I wanted to twist it around or whatever. And then what I did is I went ahead and canceled it. Or I didn't cancel it, I saved it. But this is what I created, the image that I was kind of pleased with earlier. So just so for demonstration purposes, I printed this out. I don't have to print it out. And in fact, the nice thing about on here is that you can actually get a grid. I had grids somewhere on here. Maybe I took it off. That might have been one of the things I deleted off. Layout Plus will sometimes give me a grid, but I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, there is an app that you can actually set a grid. I do know that my daughter has an iPhone and she's able to set up a grid and she's able to look at her image with that on it. So you can play around and see if you can do that. If you don't have a grid, it's not a big deal. The only nice thing about the grid is that it kind of helps you figure out where things go. So in lieu of having an actual grid, I'm going to divide that in half, and I'm going to divide this in half. And what this is going to do, it's going to help me decide where things go. And so I don't know if you can see this on here. These are tricks. Not all artists use tricks, some do. And I think it's good to learn tricks early and then decide if they're going to help you or not. So I've created just squares there. And what I can do here is I'm giving you each a sheet of 9 by 12 paper. So divide 12 in half. And we got 6. And so I'm going to make a little mark at 6. I'm going to make a little mark at 6. So I've done one down here and one in the middle, and I'm just going to trace that.
Hello everyone, and I hope everyone's been having a great Thursday. The boys soccer team is in their...
So I measured from one side to the other and create a little mark at 6 at the top and the bottom, and then I put my ruler down and lined those 2 marks up and drew a really, really lightweight line, because we're going to go back and I'm going to erase that in a few minutes. And then while the announcements came on and I paused the video, I created 2 little marks here and here. That this measurement is 9, so half of 9 is 4.5. So I've created just a real loose grid, and that's just going to help me place my objects. So when I go to draw still life, I'll pick one object and I'll draw it really, really big, or I'll draw the object where I see it. And my pencil eraser was dirty. Ugh. Excuse me. So from side to side, about halfway is about just to eyeball it, about there. And my lightsaber kind of fits here. So what I'm doing is I am kind of piecing in about where it's going to go. And if you see my arm, you see my hand moving? I'm not moving at my elbow. I'm not moving at my wrist. I am moving at my shoulder. And we talked about using your shoulder to draw circles and to draw ellipses. Now, my lightsaber is not a perfect circle. I'm not going to get a circle out and measure it. And then I also want you to notice that I am really leaving this rough. And I'm not going back and I'm not erasing this. But I am drawing very, very light. I'm not pressing hard. And that allowed me to get kind of my circle. And in looking at my screen, that's off right there. And so at this point, I will take just that edge. So now I got kind of an ellipse. And if I look at my lightsaber, it comes down here and comes down here. So we talked about cylinders. And in all honesty, this line here almost feels like this right here. So I have this vertical line and vertical line for the sides of my lightsaber. And I'm actually going to come up here and I'm going to kind of draw this back up a little bit. And this right here is a nice curve. So I'm going to bring that around. So I have this first idea laid in, and my center here is right along this edge back here. So this is my fold line, and then that's my line that I drew. And it's going to kind of come around. Now this, the way that this donut is, it looks skinnier here because we can't see that outside edge. That outside edge is on the other side of the hump of the lightsaber. And this is going to scoop around like this, a little bit longer. And then there's this shape right here for the inside of the donut here. And so this width right here should match this width right here. And okay, so I got my first lightsaber. I'm going to come back here. My second lightsaber is kind of a little bit over this edge. Let's see here. The bottom of it is like right hovering there. And then the side of it over here is like halfway. So the side of it should be like maybe there-ish. And then this side should be out here on this side of that line. So this is the region in which this is going to fit. And I'm going to see more of my circle up here. And I hope you notice that I totally goofed that up a little bit. But and anything that I goof up, I can totally go back and fix. I'm not worried. I'm not erasing a lot. And we're at the end of the day and people are needing to pop in. And so if you see starts and stops on the video, you know why. So I'm curving around. I'm getting this curve, and then this was the bottom curve. And that one really kind of more right there. Now the reason that I picked Lifesavers is that, first of all, they're candy that I have a lot of right now. I feel like I need a Lifesaver. The only thing that I can eat nicely and under my mask that I can tolerate the smell of later on. It makes my mask not smell as mouth. There's my center hole, and that's probably a little bit big. And then this curve is here. Alrighty, so I got kind of that one. And I have this little one back here. And this little one is about halfway. And it goes kind of far over on this side. Now my proportions are off a little bit because I'm squeezing in up here more than I did down below. But I'm not really worried about it. It's not like I'm doing a portrait where if my proportions are off, I cease looking human and look more like a dog. So, you know, they're going to read as lifesavers by the time I'm done with them regardless. So I got these, and I got my one back here. And this guy right here kind of fits, the bottom of him fits about halfway in between this one. So I hope you're paying attention. But really what I'm doing is I'm using this to determine the size of this. And then once I got that down, then I used it to determine this and this. So that's a lot of learning to draw realistically. It's using the spaces around you to really kind of lay things out. This guy right here might even be a little bit bigger. Given this size, I think I'm going to go ahead, just for the sake of argument, I'm going to make him bigger.
So I'll have to redo that, the hole in the center. Now, I purposely filmed mine. I purposely put it on this mat because I really thought that these lines would be interesting. These lines become a little tricky because they're lighter instead of darker. And so what I'm going to do is I'll probably lay down some solid tones in the back. And then I will erase out my lines. But I am going to actually use my paper here. See that? I'm going to square that up so it's lined up along the top, lined up along the side. And once again, I'm going to just use the trick. So here's this line. Presumably, if this is all lined up, that should line up there. And so I've made a mark here and I made a mark down here. And I can actually use that to create the line. And I'm going to do it really, really, really light. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to proceed to go all over my entire paper and fill out these lines. The wrapping, if you notice, my wrapping is a lighter tone against this background. And so I'm actually going to shade that, and then I'm going to use my eraser to draw the wrap. And the wrap is really, it's white. So I'm gonna draw with my eraser for these portions. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on this for a little while, and then I will come back and show you other steps in the future here. So this is where we're at. I have it laid out, and now I need to go and I need to start working in the values. I sent several of you home with a shading stump, so I'm not going to use the point, and I'm not going to push down. I'm going to start on the side, and I'm going to blend from the side. And I'm going to do my best to get rid of the lines. And many of you have cap erasers at home. Use them. And I believe I said I was going to redo the shape. So I can pull that shape out and redraw that shape in here once I'm happy with the I'm going to give this a little bit more room over here. Let me play with this. Lay this on the side. And that in there. This spot down here becomes really, really dark on my drawing. And when I'm trying to lay in a dark tone and I go to blend it, part of the blending is actually going to pick some of that dark tone up. And so I'll have to go back in and add more dark tones. Keep that in mind as you're working on yours. And on my drawing, we talked about circles having like a reverse, a sphere having a reverse not shadow, highlight. That's what I'm trying to say. And so right along here, there's a shadow, and then it gets really, really light before it goes into the barrel of the lightsaber. And so I can go back with my eraser and just do a crisp highlight where that needs to be. And then if I accidentally do that, I can just come back in and blend. Now, for those of you that don't have one of these, you can use a combination of a tissue to do this, and go get a Q-tip. You can use a Q-tip. That will help you as well. So, you know, back and forth, figure out what will work for you. And a lot of this becomes me just using my eraser as a drawing tool just as much as I'm using my pencil as a drawing tool. So these areas that I have shaded in, they become, and actually I didn't need to take that off. What I do need to do is actually start to shade this in back here, because that's a shadow, and that's what's going to pop him up off of there. Now, a lot of you, when you were doing your coloring pencil work, you were leaving all these scribble lines over here. There we go. We don't want to leave the scribble lines. We want to really blend the scribble lines in, because this is going to be a tone. This is not don't be afraid of getting into the shadows. And I'm going to have to go back and I'll have to scooch that over. Once I lay out these tones, I'm going to have to go back with my eraser and pull out the shiny bit of the wrapper. So I'm also, when I come around here, it's going to be tricky. I'm going to have to look at the word lifesavers and forget that it says lifesavers, and I'm going to have to really just kind of focus on what I see and draw that rather than it being something specific. So there's the beginning video, and I'll continue working on this for you guys, and I'll talk to you later. Have some fun with this, and we'll see if we can push you guys to the point of making some realistic looking candy. Talk to you all later. Bye.